Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are premiering. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Marie, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat on My Stomach is as flat as the earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Owen Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'll raise the mic on whoever is in Discord, and you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show. Morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Tiff, man, did you watch that video?
Which video?
The one of the me up in the high-rise building, taking a picture of those two mountains and the sun.
Oh, I thought it was just a picture. I didn't know it was a video.
Oh, my gosh. No, it's a video.
I actually thought it was a picture. Long. I said beautiful. I'm sorry.
It's like 2 minutes long.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I saw it. I think I responded.
I was hoping you could share it to Nathan. Maybe something he might want to see. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll have to go back. That was to my DM in Skype?
Discord.
Discord. Okay, Discord. Let me go to Discord then.
Maybe you could share it to Master B.
Let's see. The first one I click on doesn't play. It's just a video. I mean, it's just a picture. Let's see what the second one is.
Should take you to YouTube, my YouTube channel.
You know what? I clicked on both, and it's not playing. It's just a picture.
Huh. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I see. It's the one above it in the YouTube link. Got it. Got it. All right, I'm watching it. I'll share it with Nathan.
When you say you'll share it with me, do you mean you'll put it on your screen share? Are you on your main computer?
No, I'm gonna put. I don't. I'm on that stupid iPad. I'll put in Master B as a link. There we go.
Yeah, the first mountain is, I think it's like 35 miles away, 40, something like that. And then when I pan around, get to the other windows, there's another mountain that's 14 miles away.
Okay, it's up there. The Master B. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm watching it, I did see this one. I didn't had my volume down when I watched it. You're walking that office building, going from one end to the other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw this one. There's some guy that popped out, I think, and you said hi to somebody.
Yeah, I was speaking to one of the guys that was working there. It's pretty cool.
Okay, I've got it up for the audience now.
Hey guys.
Yeah, in the beginning of the video, there's a mountain. What is it? Kennesaw mountain range, which is probably about 35, almost 40 miles away from where I'm at in the high-rise building on the 49th floor. And once I get around to the other windows, there's another mountain, Stone Mountain, and that's 14 miles away. And I think the height of that mountain is like 1,600 feet, if I'm not mistaken. I have to get the numbers for the other mountain, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool shot. And you see the sun, where it looks like the sun is like pretty closer, a lot closer than what they have told us what it is.
Where is this?
Georgia.
This is in Atlanta.
Yeah, in the heart of Atlanta. I make deliveries, delivered to like restaurants and stuff. So I was at a restaurant making a delivery and asked them, could I take a picture on the 49th floor? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been to Atlanta. I mean, I've been all over the States, but Georgia specifically stuck in my mind because of the amount of people that approached me to beg. Not like there was more homeless people there than anywhere else, but they were just more willing to just come up to you, strike up a conversation, and then ask you for money almost immediately in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's what we call Southern hospitality.
Is that what it is? Beautiful view. Is that where you live?
I have to watch it. My bad, Nathan. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is that where you live? It's really nice.
I don't live in the city, but I make deliveries in the city. A lot of times I get up about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have to watch it when I'm out here making deliveries because they'll walk up on you quick out here.
I see. Cool. Thanks for sharing it. Always hold your phone sideways.
I'll work on that.
you and the rest of the world.
Was it
Why
daylight
is that?
savings?
Oh, Neil's piped up. Go on, Neil.
Why is that? Hold it sideways.
Because you get about 1/5 the resolution, and you get what shape is your television screen? Is it the shape of a phone? No. So why would you hold your phone in an orientation that looks great when you hold your phone up in that orientation, but as soon as you put it onto anything other than a phone, it looks absolutely awful because you've got 1/5 the resolution.
(10-4).
Film it. When
No,
you're
that was
filming,
the 49th. That was the four.
I think I'm looking at a television screen when you're filming something. So if you're filming something with your phone and you're holding it like a phone, like you take a phone call, obviously that's not akin to how a TV looks. If you're filming something, it's going to be presented on a TV. So you turn it so that when you're holding it, although it's obviously a lot more awkward to hold the phone that way, but that's really not the point. Excuse me, that's me caught in my
Hey
lunch.
Neil, that was the 49th floor, not 10th floor. Hey, was it daylight
What was
savings
that?
time?
Yeah, thanks for reminding us, Nathan. We had a bunch of scared people here. Is he going to do
Who was
a
scared?
show? I don't know. Maybe he's not doing a show. Oh, that sucks. Me and Flat Soy were panicking a little bit. And Chocolate.
Oh, because we've
But
had
I
our
should have
clocks
realized.
change. It's the
Because
clocks-
Arwen didn't do his show either.
Yeah, the clock's changed. I intentionally set a video.
We love the show.
Just to see what had happened. I set a video at the time that they changed the clocks just to see what happened. It just bumped it forward an hour for you, but published it at the correct time for me. That makes sense? So even though the clocks had gone back, I said, right, 3 o'clock. And then 3 o'clock came, clocks went back. Obviously, we got our extra hour, and then it still came out at 3 o'clock.
Well, maybe it's part of that pseudo-Romanian force space time.
Well,
It
I just
only
wanted to
works
see
for
how,
1 hour.
I wanted to see how YouTube coped with it. I like fiddling with stuff. I like to know how YouTube works. So when I was putting the time in, you'd put in 300 hours, and then you'd click save, and when you came back, it would just say 4. So I think it sort of normalizes it for the whole of the world, and that would be 4. So that's what time it got published. Now, obviously, you can just go by the countdown timer. So once you've published it, you can go to the video and it'll say this is live in 2 hours, this is live in 60 minutes, etc. So you can obviously work out exactly when it's going to be based on your local time, but not when you're publishing it. Until you've actually published it, you can't see what time it came out. And I've got it wrong. Obviously, I've published 2 or 3 videos as I would normally over the weekend. And a couple of times I've got it wrong. But Arwen completely forgot. so he just forgot the clock to change. I asked him in one of the chats, I was like, did you forget? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're next week. I'm not sure.
I've got a solution for that problem.
Don't change the clocks.
I've got a solution for that problem.
Go on.
Let's move to South Africa.
Metallica?
Move to South Africa. You never need to change the clocks ever.
I thought you said, have you heard of Metallica? But you actually said move to South Africa. I was thinking, this is going to be good. Anything involving Metallica, this has got to be ace.
Oh, gosh.
I was more AC/DC fan though.
Rock on.
I see you were current.
Master of puppets and pulling the strings.
You all missed that nice pun I just threw out there.
No, I didn't miss it, no.
You didn't, but you didn't respond either, so maybe there's an hour delay.
Sorry, what'd you say?
If I have
Did
to repeat it,
Did anybody watch Glowbusters?
every day when I look out and see the horizon is flat.
Loads of people in chat. Sorry, Neil. I have to hustle them off to get you an answer.
Apparently, the whole show was about Bob.
Neil's in the rental car,
Jesus,
and his voice is coming in loud.
Yes,
anywhere.
yes. Talk a bit. Just talking, and I was going to say normal voice.
I'm yelling.
I don't know why he's yelling.
Yeah, we can. You're a lot louder than normal, Neil. So just be aware, because I can't control your volume in the Hangout. So just yeah.
Because I hear. Okay, so apparently.
Oh, that's perfect.
The whole show was about Bob, according to him.
Yeah, it was.
Isn't it Bob's show? What? So what?
Okay, I'm sorry. I say things and I think that you're in my mind. Show 1274 on Thursday. He watched it, and apparently he's seen your show, Flat Earth Debate. He seems to think the whole show was about him. It wasn't. It was the after show. That's number one. Number two, he never brought up why we were annoyed because, Anthony's egg experiment. He just ran with the remark that I said that he thinks he's the smartest guy in the world. So, he didn't have nothing bad to say. He gave you a lot of props to your show, Nathan. But he was explaining how, he did extend an olive branch and things are cool. But, yeah, you gotta listen to it. Cool. So Arwen was right. They are listening. But at least tell the whole freaking story.
What am I missing? What's he missed? There's nothing to tell. What's to tell? What are you talking about? I'm completely lost, Neil.
Okay, he was claiming... All right, the whole thing started with Bob when Anthony's experiment. He never once brought that up. Never once. That's how the conversation got started. Okay? He just brings up that everybody, what I said, that he thinks he's the smartest guy in the world and nonsense like that. Never brought it up into that, but you got to listen to the darn show. I can't remember everything when I'm driving.
It's okay. What experiment?
Anthony's egg experiment. That's how we got on the conversation of Bob Nodell. Okay. We didn't just open up a show talking about Bob Nodell.
And what's Anthony's egg
experiment? But he never mentioned that.
God. You're so focused on Bob.
Okay, hang on, Nathan. I think I'm getting bits and pieces. Let me see if I can put it in context. He's talking about your show when they were talking about Anthony's experiment. Then he's jumping into Bob's show, and Bob never brought up that as a part of it, and only got the last end of what Neil and others were saying about him on your show. Is that right, Neil?
Yeah, the other day when we got into the big Bob Nodell discussion. Now, when Bob brought it up that we were mentioning him, it was only because of that. He didn't explain anything about how he just dismisses Anthony's egg experiment. And he just right on, he said, some people in Nathan's panel think I'm the smartest guy in the world. And they got into that shit. I think I said that, but, you know, he just didn't explain the whole thing correctly.
Yeah, back onto this, he should be explaining it like this. Thing, like when we had the discussion in the first place, right? He's his own man. He can discuss it.
Give me a break. I'm driving. It's raining. I'm having a hard time here. I'm yelling into my mic, and apparently I don't have to.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I actually turned the compression level up just because of you.
Bad time to bring it up.
I went into my filters and changed the compression from 4 to 1 to 5 to 1, just for you, Neil.
Neil, can you put your phone in the trunk?
Yeah, on the way back.
No, I mean, keep it far away from you because you're so loud. It's crazy, man. You got good reception for some reason.
I'm on mute.
Sometimes when I see people with a car phone, right, they don't appreciate that obviously it's coming through the loudspeakers of the car. And some modern cars have got quite powerful hi-fis in them. So therefore, they're sat in their car having a conversation, and you can hear both people at the same volume through the windows of the car when they're up. So you sat next to somebody in traffic with your window down, and you can literally hear both sides of the conversation because they've got their Bluetooth or whatever it is so loud. It's like they want to hear them like they're in the room with them. I want to hear this person like they're sat next to me.
Oh my!
This is true. Was that low enough?
Well, that's good. When you talk slowly, it's much better.
Anyway, just watch this show. It's at the hour.
Breaking up.
He goes from talking too loud to roboting. Poor guy.
Yeah, it's 5G Karma or 4G Karma or whatever connection he's got.
Minute mark, I believe.
That's right, Neil.
I'm on mute.
This is too much, man.
Oh, I got a full Discord server.
Yeah, blame this shit all on this freaking daylight savings time, because I would have had the call brought back already.
Jesus, you're loud.
This hour shit delay.
Neil,
I waited so I could do the show. And then it's freaking not coming on. Listen, I turned my life around this show, Nathan.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate hearing it at triple volume, as distorted as it could be.
Oh, Neil, this is too early for this comedy hour, man. This is too funny, man.
I was yelling again, right?
No, Neil, you were all good, my friend, this bloody daylight savings hours.
I'm about 2 minutes away from dropping a car off, so everything will be back to normal.
That was the best line yet. I was yelling again, right?
It's weird how the clock change.
Neil,
Go on, whoever that was. Rams, go ahead, sorry. Or Ryan.
Oh no, it was Ryan. I was asking Neil if he'd heard Bob lose his shit over his mods. He got pissed.
Yep, I did hear that. Yes, I did.
I'm like, sorry, Bob.
Damn it, I gave you a wrench. Why don't you use it?
Yep.
Again, I have
I
no
think he
idea
was
what you're
talking to
about.
me.
Okay, that's an inside thing, Nathan. But let me explain one thing. $10 million. Him and freaking Mark Sargent are getting together with Netflix. So just be prepared to freaking start explaining things because some asshole goes to make some money.
How do you know they're getting paid?
Well, there was 10 million put into this big project that they're
Not what I
doing.
asked. How do you know they're getting paid?
Oh, they're getting paid.
How do you know they're getting paid?
They're getting paid.
How
Mark
do you know?
Sargent is getting paid. For things like that, he's going to get paid. Doesn't matter if they get paid or not. You know, they better have everything on the level, because if it's not, then it's going to be the same thing like before. What is he going to prove this time? Freaking gravity?
Where'd you get the $10 million figure from? I don't even
Nice.
know what this is all about.
And who cares if they are getting paid?
Bob Nodell said it.
Good.
He
I hope
said
they are
these
getting paid.
investors
It's
are
about
put-
bloody time.
I
Good.
just don't want to be answering questions because he freaking muddies the water with his ether shit. You watch and see. Oh, I'm going to be laughing when it happens, and I'm going to see, I told you all, but you just
Why?
didn't listen to me.
Why are you assuming the worst? Why are you assuming that Mark or Bob is going to make some glaring error that you're going to have to deal with? Why is it that you're under this assumption? Why have you got such a negative opinion about their dissemination of their information? I don't get it.
Which is what happened the last time. I don't forget.
What happened last time was part of a convoluted mess of
Bob
Coriolis effect.
Nodell. Nathan, yeah, because you're looking at it now. You turned it into something beautiful. But for 2 years, it was a bunch of crap. Hey, Bob Nodell proved the Earth turns. Yeah, you flat earthers are retards. You're one of your own guys proved that the Earth turns. Come on, I heard it. I heard it a million times. It was
So what?
My own son threw it up in my face.
So, now I use that to our advantage, don't I? So, while
Okay,
things...
so then you're going to have something to use gravity for your advantage. Because trust me, I'm sure he's going to do something where he proves gravity.
I'm going to prove
More worried
pseudo-Riemannian
about
bending
Mark than
conceptual
Bob.
mediums of space-time, Neil. Don't worry about it. Same thing applies in a in an argument. Let me just clear my throat. In an argument that's extremely convoluted, there was, for me, I didn't see very many inroads into getting that convoluted mess of Coriolis back to a point where it was all clear what each side was claiming and what each side wasn't claiming. Well, now I'm very pleased with that outcome. To the point where people on the panel are declaring how they've always thought Coriolis was the best argument ever. It's like, well, no. As soon as you actually get into it in the trenches, it isn't a good argument, because they will then, as I've described about 100 times in the last 2 months, turn what is their claim into something we have to defend like it's our argument. The lack of drift, when they're supposed to have 15 degrees of it as Earth turns underneath. Now, those words are fairly clear and understandable now. And yeah, it might have taken 2 years of everyone saying, Bob proved 15 degrees drift. Well, now everyone's clear that they're all chuffed because they've got this proof of 15 degrees drift as Earth turns underneath. Something that would cause drift. And we don't have any. Well, that's clear, concise, and it's coming from 2 years of what you're moaning about. Well, generally speaking, and this is a fairly well-researched statement, I'm not going to pander around the fact that I've looked into this in a fairly extensive way. There is no such thing as bad publicity. Now, put on that a small caveat, which is long term. Short term, very easy to get bad publicity. Long term, not so much. No such thing as bad publicity. So whatever Bob does, take it in your stride if you think he's going to do something bad, but why are you fretting and stressing about something he's not yet done and might not even do, and it might be very beneficial. We might, you might find afterwards that you've worked yourself up so much about some clangor he may drop that when it's actually all beneficial and everyone's like talking about the subject even more as a direct result of their actions, hopefully which they've got paid for, which I'm very pleased to hear, then you'll be thanking him, right? No, you'll be really pissed off that you haven't got anything to moan about at the end of it because you've worked yourself up into this emotional state where you think that there is going to be something. Well, okay, lightning might strike twice. I doubt it. Do you not think he's going to be the most cautious person ever when he's on a live mic now? I think so.
Well, it doesn't matter. what happened.
I'm more worried about Mark.
Still,
It was that red man. Go ahead. Sorry, 10th. Who was that in Discord? Go ahead, whoever it was.
Said he's more worried about Mark.
Oh,
What about Mark? Mark's ace. As is Bob. You don't need to worry about these people being of some massive detriment. They're not. They're on our side. We may disagree with them on certain points. They are on our side.
just my opinion.
Can I finish what I was starting to say?
Substantiated by what? Your opinion, fine. But based on what?
Just some of the stuff he says, the dome thing, the whole, just, I don't know. It's turned into like a disc jockey for flat Earth.
They don't like his character. Just that type of personality, kind of power dweeb.
Yeah, it seems kind of fake to me.
Nah, Mark is actually like that. I've met him. That's just Mark. That's what he's
Cool.
like.
Cool.
When you get past the fact that there are, certain types and certain characters, and Mark is, I'm not going to be derogatory to him again, just a certain type of person. Well, once you get past that and you look at what he's actually doing, I think he's doing a lot of good. And in terms of his knowledge, it's exemplary. So, I don't know. There might be certain things, again, similar parallel to Bob. There might be certain things that Mark does that I don't agree with. And you look past because you go, well, okay, I disagree with him on one or two things out of 1,000. A lot of which are quite complex, and he understands and has taken the time to go out and research. He could have ignored them and walked past them and utilised another tool in his arsenal, and he hasn't. He's learnt them. So he knows all the arguments like the back of his hand. Very good at speaking in public. He's got a character and a personality, which is more than can be said for a lot of people. So, I don't know. I think Mark's ace. I've got not one word I could say bad about him, honestly.
No, I have nothing bad to say about him. I wasn't really putting him down necessarily. I was more just referencing the way he refers to certain things. Like he talks about it being a holographic, you know, whatever he says about it, this place being holographic and living in a Truman style dome, and that whole, I don't know, that spiel. I think he could change it up. It's just my opinion.
But you've got to, like with anything, you've got to consider the many different layers that he's actually putting down in those sorts of statements. He's appealing to people to be able to visually conceptualize things in one or two statements. So Truman-style dome, that's a few words that can get people to visualize the entirety of the notion of a flat plane that's self-contained. Well, that's a fairly difficult thing to get across to someone when they've got a paradigm that's established and is unshakable. Those people are so well set in the idea that they've got a sphere beneath their feet that to try and even introduce a concept like that is really quite difficult. And Mark is a dab hand at it. Far better than me. I can't do that with normies. I think the term flat smacking comes from people's inability to be able to slowly introduce the idea so that you don't end up either causing massive cognitive pain or getting them to have a violent opposition to it, not in physical terms, but in mental terms, on the spot. So again, that's a skill that Mark's got. So you've got to kind of look beneath the surface level of how it might come across if you already are well aware of what the subject is and what it isn't. And, Truman-style dome, I can see a lot of truth in that. I've made many a parallel with the Truman Show on this show myself. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll get into it after the housekeeping questions. I've got to start the live show. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching. Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Blatzoid, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Goedemiddag.
Yo.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Not from the self-contained flat plane.
Ditto that 10th.
So a few people have got in touch with me saying that Mr. Sensible's released a video, and initially I just assumed that it would be some claim to be proof from the sky vacuum, which is what I responded to the person who drew my attention to it, although I haven't actually watched the video. But after about the 10th comment, I got the conclusion that this person's actually drawing the conclusion that we can see a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon. That would be a physical horizon from an altitude. Now, the reason I gleaned that is because someone was saying, you can claim that he sees the curve of the Earth from this altitude, even though Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see it from much higher. It's like, okay, so this is actually a reification of a horizon into a physical Earth curve edge that needs addressing, albeit from potentially within what is claimed to be our atmosphere. It's not necessarily refutable with the sky vacuum debunking. Moreover, the fact that we haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. The horizon's not a physical location. It's not the edge of a sphere to go over. It's not capable of measurement, it moves with the weather, it has no geometric properties for you to derive an R value from. We've debunked that with the black swan. At best, you've debunked the radius, according to the words of Mr. Sensible, who's apparently the purveyor of this particular video. So, here we go. This is based on this article. Thank you, Chocolate. I'll put it up for the audience. So, yeah, it's based on this. So, if this is claimed to be a physical geometric sphere edge with a curve, then you're claiming you can see physicality in the horizon. And the whole point of you telling us that you can't see a geometric horizon is because we've debunked that notion. It moves. You don't have a physical location for boats to go over or to obscure things or to curve at altitude. So, Mr. Sensible of all people, the reason you're saying at best you've debunked the radius is because we can't see Earth curve physicality in the horizon. That's why you've had to make that statement based on the black swan. So what, you just think you can ship up a balloon or use somebody else's and say that suddenly it's a physical Earth curve edge? These people are morons. They don't understand the wide-reaching implications of the black swan argument. We don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. Bunch of clowns.
Nathan, I watched the video and the guy is total moron. So much double speak from the beginning. He's even trying to prove pressure gradients in the same video, saying we don't agree on pressure gradients because he's showing pressure gradients. Then he's showing the balloon actually pulling up. He actually shows entropy when the balloon pops and says that is now showing there's no containment. And then he shows barrel distortion, which is now his Earth curve with a skew line that isn't even straight on the screen.
Okay, I'm glad you've summarised it. So it's just a load of useless old assertions that are continually, I should say, daily addressed on this show.
Yep, it's bullshit.
No worries. Surprise, surprise. Just a load of useless assertions that are all wrapped up in the housekeeping questions. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without necessary antecedent of a container? So, for example, just before you answer, if you're going to answer, if you have that balloon in this example that's popping, well, what's happening is the balloon has a gas in it, and it's contained by the balloon, until the pressure exceeds what the container can contain, and then it pops. But what happens then? Well, the gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of whatever volume it has to fill. It doesn't fall back down, go boom boom, unless it's part of some cycle and changing state. So it expands in all directions. So if the sky above it, the black area in these pictures above it, was a vacuum, then that's an area for the gas to fill. Hey, QE. Of course, we're running an hour ahead, aren't we, for you?
I got a question.
Hey,
Sorry.
go ahead, Ben.
I got. It's,
No,
it's just.
I'll just try once more. Hey, hello, QE. Good to have you.
Don't worry about it. He's getting his chocolate milk or something.
Go ahead,
Needs to
Darwin.
get breakfast anyway.
Go ahead, Darwin.
Way too early for him. Yeah. I had a question about gases, not about how they expand, because I know how that works. But are there any type of gases that you can see, or are all gases absolutely transparent? They might have refraction qualities, but are they all perfectly transparent, or are there colored gases?
It's in the bromine example, right?
I don't
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you got the bromine that you could clearly see equalizing in that tube.
But bromine is a gas?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
obviously.
And it
bromine's
has a color,
gas.
right?
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
No, it's fair enough. If it's not first apparent, I suppose it is a black and white film. So, but obviously, you could only make that demonstration visually apparent if you could see what was going on, and you can in that example. So,
Right. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure whether it was dust that is basically floating in that gas like that, like smoke, or if it was really the gas that is colored itself. Wasn't sure.
if it was suspended particles, then they'd be more dense than the medium, and they'd fall to the bottom of the chamber, as opposed to it being distributed evenly. So no.
Well, they would have, if one chamber is vacuum and the other isn't, then they would be sucked along with the gas into the other chamber.
I'm sure, but in the meantime, when the valve is closed, you've essentially got everything reaching equilibrium. It's expanded as much as it can into the volume that it can to create the pressure it's going to create. That's all happened within an instant once they filled that chamber with the valve on it. But if there was something suspended in it, yeah, it might stay suspended for a certain period of time and eventually drop to the bottom if it was more dense. And yeah, once you open the valve, it might very well, the inrush might pull some of the particulates with it, but it doesn't change that it would be more dense.
Okay.
Since we're still kind of on the first, sorry, Owen. Since we're still on the first question, you think we could go back to that? Did we speak about that Neil deGrasse Tyson from that post from that flat Earth debunking site? Apparently, did we talk about that at all? Because that's new to me. I just read into that this morning, so I don't know. It's kind of funny. I wanted to see if we could pull it apart a little bit. Just pull out some irony.
Got it back up on screen. I thought I smashed this into the middle of the next week. I can just do it with 2 words, right? Black Swan.
Oh yeah. But I just want to point out some of the ironies, right? Because I'll read it out if anybody wants to. They're not looking at the screen. So it says Neil deGrasse Tyson once incorrectly stated that it is still too low to see Earth's curvature from the height of Felix Baumgartner's jump. In reality, we should be able to see it. Flat earthers believe people like Neil's remarks as gospel and use it to dismiss any observations of Earth's curvature. But we have no problem saying Neil was wrong. It is okay to be wrong as long as we are willing to revise our views when faced with new facts. And we are certain Neil will. So basically, what is it? What do they do? Are they setting Neil up to make a retraction for his statements?
No, they're not. No.
No.
No. Let me explain what's happening.
No Coriolis retraction?
Let me explain. It's a very similar thing, though, Armin. Yes. So when you have an issue that requires doublespeak, it requires 2 different levels of discussion. You've got the high priest, who makes the rhetoric clear. Now, I'm going to make a little disclaimer here, because mathematically he is actually wrong. So you should see the curve of the Earth from ground level. Yep, you should be able to photograph it. It's calculable in the Earth curve calculations. Now we're talking about left to right curve in an image, even though they're calculating it based on Muppet vision. We won't get into the aspects of how they do it, but ultimately they've got an advanced section in their calculator that tell how much you should be able to see of the curve of the Earth. And it's claimed in a panorama, which we've done and calculated with the Isle of Man, that you should be able to see left to right curvature from the ground, increasing in its curviness as you raise in altitude. Now, he's potentially saying you wouldn't notice it's so insignificant. That aspect, which he would undoubtedly argue were he would be put to task, he would say, well, it's so unnoticeable even at cruising altitude. Even from Felix Baumgartner's height, it's not as noticeable as the comparison he's making, which is between that and fisheye. That's what his comparison is in full context. So Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, the curve of the Earth isn't like it looks in Felix Baumgartner, that's fisheye lens. Now, you can't see curve of the Earth from that altitude, meaning it's so insignificant, it's so slight that you wouldn't even perceive it. That's what he's would be, and I'm speaking on his behalf here, and reasonably so if you were a glober, but I don't care. That's what he'd say. I'm making a comparison between what people think the Earth looks like when you go up a little bit in height, which is only a tiny bit above this beach ball when I reify it into the Earth, and you wouldn't see curve from that height. Now, does that mean that mathematically it's not calculable, and if you took an image, you could be able to just about make it out and measure it to a small degree? In their claim, this is the point, that the horizon's physical, an Earth curve edge that's bending. It isn't. We've debunked that, but they need two levels of doublespeak because they haven't got a physical Earth curve edge for a horizon. So you need one side to say it will bend at altitude, the other to say it won't, so that you argue all day about not whether or not it's a physical Earth curve edge, whether or not it would be bent. What would be bent? Well, the Earth curve edge that we're automatically reifying when we have this argument. So we're all clear. The horizon's a physical Earth curve edge in this argument. We're just discussing whether or not that reified Earth curve horizon edge that boats go over is bent or not, given out. That's all we're arguing about. That's why they set it up in this way. So they're saying flat earthers argue that it wouldn't be bent. What, the physical Earth curve edge that you're reifying in this example? No, well, we don't do that anymore here. We say, no, the horizon's not an Earth curve edge. What do you mean it's bending? Who cares? Meaningless. It's not physical Earth curve edge. It's not an obstruction. It's not geometric. You can't measure it. It's not physical. So who cares what it's doing at any altitude? You want to argue about whether it's straight or not? Who cares? It's not physical. It's not an Earth curve. Boats aren't going over it. It's not physically blocking stuff. It moves with the weather. You haven't got a physical entity that's a physical sphere edge to measure with geometry. So who cares what it's doing? This is completely pointless. We've debunked the notion they're utilising in this example and want us to argue about whether or not it's flat or straight or curved and bent. Nah, we're not going to fall for it.
Exactly.
The horizon's not physical. Yeah. It's not an Earth curve edge.
Yep, it is hilarious to me. But my favorite line, though, is we are willing to revise our views when faced with new facts.
New facts.
Right.
Okay, well, new fact, shock horror. The horizon's not a physical Earth curve edge. You're telling us that. So this isn't like it's a fact from your side that we've suddenly debunked. No, your side are telling us how you don't have physical geometry in your Earth curve edge horizon that you measure and get R from and are now claiming is physically curving in line with a sphere Earth physicality that it doesn't have. Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation?
Well, you need reference frames for that, so.
They've been ruined, says Simon Dan.
Well, I didn't see any drift on Mr. Sensible's video.
No. I mean, I'm sure they did send something up into the sky, but we'd expect Earth to turn underneath it as a second reference frame if Earth was a spinning sphere with 15 degrees an hour drift. That would be you turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed to be the case on a globe Earth that spins. 15 degrees an hour drift, did you turn underneath stuff, not attached? That doesn't happen. Earth isn't spinning. Nothing's drifting away from you. Drones don't drift away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Don't take off in a hot air balloon and find you land in a different country because Earth turned underneath at 15 degrees an hour. It's absurd. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Oh, mustn't we first know what the sun is before we can try and make a distance to it?
Yep. It's over there.
Shout out to Sandra.
It is.
Coolpix P1000 and P900 is the name of her channels. Coolpix P900 being, I think, the most popular. And she just did some sunspot videos this morning. And they were good enough for me to sit in front of my kid and say, look, see that? Senor Sol? This is what it looks like if you can actually look at it. Because obviously I've explained that she's not to be staring at the sun. It's my eldest daughter. But it was great to show Sandra's video and say, look, this is what it looks like when you've got really good imagery of it with the sunspots moving. It was ace. So check out Sandra's videos. They're really, really good. Oh, there you go. She's in the chat.
Those sunspots.
She's in the chat. Check her out.
Those sunspots. Do they actually rotate clockwise or?
Well, they moved across it in a kind of diagonally kind of motion on her video today. I've seen them move in all sorts of different ways. And wagon wheel their way around. They do all sorts.
Cool. So then how can they claim it's spinning if it keeps changing directions?
I could infer that. I could very easily infer that by the way it looks on a given day. I've seen sunspot videos where I could really easily say, there you go, it's spinning. Because it kind of looks like something that I see on the ground when I've got it and I can verify it's a sphere shaped and I spin it. It kind of looks a bit like this. Therefore, it is that. You know, I can just draw that correlation and declare it so. You know what else I could do? I could look at the spectrum of light it gives off. There's many things I can do with the sun and draw parallels and inferences and then just declare them as so. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. It moves with you.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Reification fallacy.
Good answer. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, did anyone see that article I posted? Probably not this morning.
Right now, I win.
It was terrible, but let me find it. Right. Scientists detecting mini black holes may indicate the existence of parallel universes. That one.
Okay. So we're in the Stephen Hawking. Okay, yeah, go carry on.
Well, I basically posted a comment in there. I wonder if they're going to delete it or leave it there, saying, scientists, you say, what's their independent variable in their hypothesis? How are they going to vary and manipulate it to prove the cause of the effect, their phenomenon within their hypothesis? Oh, wait, they couldn't? All they did was stare at lights in the sky and draw conclusions without testing it empirically? Oh well, there's always pseudoscience, where you can just call yourself scientist and the culturally brainwashed masses won't be able to tell the difference.
Epic comment.
Thanks. I'll post the link in the YouTube chat.
Cool. Are you subscribed
But yeah,
to Sandra?
the article is just nonsense.
Are you subscribed to Sandra by chance?
Sandra?
Yeah.
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Cool pics. Any chance you can dig out a sunspot video and post it as well so people can go and subscribe to her? You can't actually click on their name anymore in the chat and just...
Yeah, I know.
If you could, that'd be really handy.
Annoying.
Little did you know when you begged me for a moderator status that actually be running around getting links for people.
Wait, I have to find her first.
I'll leave you to it. Any evidence that we can have gas pressure without a container? We did half cover this earlier.
Here it is. Not the evidence of gas pressure without a container, but P900 Cool Pics channel.
Subscribe today.
Okay, can I read this just for a second?
Putting the link in the chat right now.
Thank you for your running commentary, Arwin. That's just so helpful. Thank you for doing it. Go ahead,
Right.
Paul.
Now that you're asking the housekeeping question, I want to follow up my earlier inquiry about the bromine gas and whether it is really colored in its gaseous form. Because now I was thinking, the ballers have earlier on showed that, the very heavy gas and then using a boat to float on it in an aquarium and all that, right? But that gas is perfectly transparent, so you literally don't see anything. Well, we always reply to that, but yeah, entropy will cause that gas to eventually dissipate, right? But you can't see it. You literally can't see it except for that any boat on it might eventually sink to the bottom.
Yeah,
but you don't know where the gas is going exactly. Well, with bromine, you could see such a thing. So I was wondering, how heavy is bromine compared to the natural atmospheric gases? Is it heavier, or is it not as heavy or lighter? Or?
Compared to sulfur?
Just real quick, Nathan, do you have Discord muted?
Sorry again?
Do you have Discord muted?
No.
I was told everybody's muted.
Can you hear us in Discord?
John isn't muted.
I'm not in Discord. I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's all good, chocolate. So it's like orders of magnitude less dense, bromine versus sulfur hexafluoride, which is man-made and intentionally dense, but, well, not intentionally, for the purposes of that demonstration, intentionally dense. But would it ruin the magic trick if you could see the gas? Because then it's water.
I know, but I don't want to help that magic trick. It's rather the demonstration of what we say, that it eventually dissipates. Now, if you take a room in like a very big aquarium, very, very big, like a cubic 2 meter square, cube, sorry, and within it, another aquarium with that bromine gas in it, and kind of ensure that it's going to stay there for at least a while by dividing up the pressures within the room. It's going to be slightly complicated because I want to see how it actually gradually dissipates. And with bromine gas, you could visibly see that.
Just boil a kettle.
That would be interesting. How would it dissipate?
Boil a kettle.
Yeah, but that's very different type of gas and different situation.
What? Just fills the space.
I know
cigarette
that, but
smoke?
I want to see how it does it. How it mixes in. Kind of like the ink in water, you can see it, how it dissolves. I want to see how the bromine gas will dissipate within the confine.
Okay. I mean, if you want to see entropy in a much easier fashion, it is easier to show with a liquid. Just drop a bit of dye in a big load of liquid and watch it dissipate.
Of course, but still, liquid is different. It's not a gas. See, that's
what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Arwin.
Is visible,
Paul's been waiting for a while now, and I want Paul to get to his point. But what you're saying is you want to see something that's very dense, like sulfur hexafluoride, but coloured, so that you can see the entropy increase with a dense gas. So it's obviously going to be a much quicker increase than my dye example, but it's going to be much slower than just opening a valve on bromine. So you want to see something that's a gas that's coloured with a just quick enough entropy increase to see it visually. You don't ask for much, do you?
Right. I just want to see how it's spread out. It's basically, what are the turbulence patterns of its spreading out? Where is it going to spread out? Is it literally going in all directions, gradually, slowly, or does it take other forms to spread around?
Sure. Couldn't you do it with dry ice? Isn't there a whole load of examples that you could do it with, where you can see a gas initially and then you could just watch it dissipate and fill the space? Isn't there a ton of examples? Anyway, can we get to Paul before we constantly...
Yeah, sure. It's okay.
It is interesting. Go ahead, Paul. He's probably got a baby crawling on him now.
Well, yeah, she's screaming in the background, so she might chime in. 2 comments. Actually, oxygen is blue. Because if you put it, if it becomes a liquid, it looks blue in a container. I've actually seen it. And the other thing is, how, back to the multiverse issue, how could you use your physics in this world to try to discover the physics in another world?
You can't.
It's just more of a question.
You can't. It's just Narnia physics. No, conceptual mediums again, parallel universes, working in conceptual mediums, wormholes, time dilation. It's all bollocks. It's all conceptual. None of it applies to us. None of it applies.
That stuff is not real?
No, none of it's real. None of it is real.
So how are they traveling in space? How are the astronauts doing what they're doing? And NASA, how's NASA doing what they're doing? If it's
They're not. They're not. They aren't doing what they say they're doing. They're not traveling in a sky vacuum. There is no sky vacuum, right? And space-time, just a name given to a conceptual geometry, right? That's all it is. Now, the fact that they also call a fake place space and claim to travel through it, and then they claim that their mathematical reifications are that place, doesn't mean that place is real. There is no outer space. It's fake. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would just fill the space. That's it. We'd have no gas to breathe if the sky was a vacuum. So any claim that comes from that place is fake, automatically.
Nathan, that was excellent, because I'm online in a place called Bed Bath & Beyond, and I said that just so the guy in front of me could hear it.
What, you want to ruin people's day?
Yeah. I see you scratching his head.
Yeah, Earth is flat, the sky is not a vacuum,
that too.
we're not
It's
spinning.
fun.
It's the first time I did it. I got to do it more often.
We can thank Conspiracy Cats for the new line now, because now they're parroting what he said from the Pontiff Maximus of Retardia and Hillbilly Blue Balls, Redneck Retard. Gas pressure and pressurized gas are different. Go to Ballbusters. There's a little clip. It's just a raw clip. It's real short.
So
you're asking the wrong question, Rakia.
I know it is.
The thing is you need a container to have pressurized gas, not gas pressure.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yep. What? Conspiracy Cats. Now they're going to start parroting this shit. You people are frigging morons. Thanks.
Yeah, all they're doing, I can see their logic though. What they're doing is trying to take a distinguishing point between taking any gas in our, I'll use their vernacular, atmosphere, and making it of a higher pressure, i.e. than the air surrounding it. They're calling that pressurized gas, and they're saying to achieve gas at a higher pressure than the already existing atmospheric pressure, but without saying that, is with a container. Now, the only place they can go with that is to their fundamentalist sky vacuum belief, and to say, well, we already have gas pressure here. I don't even have to account for it. It's like, well, that's the whole point of our question. How do we have the gas pressure here? The gas pressure you're starting with? Well, they just have a fundy assertion that it's a sphere-shaped air with a sphere-shaped air law and gravity. So they're just going to justify the fact that we've got gas pressure here as being gas pressure without a container off the back of that. So no, we can't have pressurized gas without a container, but we can have gas pressure. It's all around you. That's all they're going to do.
Can you take a measure of the pressure of gas that's not pressurized?
No, nature abhors a vacuum. So no, you don't have naturally occurring vacuums to measure the difference between gas pressure and no gas pressure. The gas pressure that was around.
What is this non-pressurized?
So then how do we have a gas pressure here measurement? How do they measure that gas pressure?
Chocolate? What is non-pressurized gas exactly?
The lack of gas.
That's what I'm trying to understand. Because they're saying, well, you could have you need a container to have pressurized gas, but not gas pressure. What?
It makes no sense.
Okay, I don't mind. I don't mind rephrasing it and saying the air we're breathing is very much pressurized gas. That's what we're breathing. Pressurized gas is what's going in and out of your lungs right now, ladies and gentlemen. Does it make any difference that I change it from gas pressure to pressurized gas? We are breathing pressurized gas. And according
why
to
do we
them,
have pressurized
hold on.
gas?
No. Let's quickly turn this from some negative into a rose. So let's get it straight. They're saying on the globe side, you can't have pressurized gas without a container. Am I correct in that assertion? Is that their current declaration? I just need an affirmative from somebody.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Is it my correct summary to state that the globe side in the trenches currently would declare as follows: you can't have pressurized gas without a container? Would that assertion from my summary of the globe side's position be correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But you can have gas pressure without a container.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, the fact I am breathing pressurized gas by their own declaration means we must have containment. So they are agreeing with us at last.
Exactly. Because
I don't
if
think
it's not pressurized.
I don't think it needs any more evaluation or assessment. It's just the Elmer Fudd. They think they're clever, right? They're friggin' Elmer Fudd doofuses. Pressurized gas is gas pressure. Gas pressure is pressurized gas. We could just leave it there and move on.
I think it's just all distractions for their main entrance point, which is literally denying natural law and gas pressure expansion within a vacuum. That's really what they're holding on to. You know, they rather just bring on
everyone's down in the mouth. They're missing the point.
Distractions and just per default ignore natural law. It seems to be okay with a lot of things.
No, they're not. You're missing the point. You're all down in the mouth like they're being Elmer Fudd because they're trying to convolute the difference between gas pressure and pressurized gas. No. Finally see this for what it is. They are conceding. A bit like saying we can't have a geometric horizon. Well, they're saying we can't have pressurized gas without a container, and I'm breathing it. That's a concession.
Exactly.
So they're conceding.
That's why Arwin, that's why I asked the question that I asked. Can you measure the pressure of gas that's not pressurized? And then what did you say? Can you have gas that's not pressurized? Exactly.
But don't
so we have a gas pressure here, right? 14.7 we talk about all the time at sea level, right? So if it wasn't pressurized, how would they have that number in the first place?
They've told us we need containment, so they've conceded. They've said you can only achieve pressurized gas by way of containment, paraphrasing their position. Well, therefore, they concede.
Gravity is their containment.
It doesn't matter what they claim in their fundy belief. They're conceding the point. They can move on to say, for example, let's take it onto a different subject. I assume the Earth and atmosphere travel together. Doesn't matter. Assume all you like. There's supposed to be a drift proving that we're spinning. There isn't. The fact that you try and justify the fact we haven't with some belief about what it does is irrelevant. They believe that gravity holds gas away from a vacuum. I couldn't care less. To have pressurized gas, according to them, we need containment. And I'm breathing it. So we've got to have containment by their own concession.
And they have it, according to them.
What, in a form of a not actual force? Oh, well, that's going to get them far here, isn't it?
Yes.
No,
they have a
no,
hole in
it's not.
space called the bending of space-time, which is in a fictional medium. But to it, it's like, in pseudo-Riemannian force space, gas can go down, go boom, boom, within that framework and basically end up in a hole, like water in a hole. And that hole would be the center of Earth.
I get it, a gravity well. Yes, I understand.
That's why it works in their minds.
I know why they think it works in their pseudo-geometry. And I covered it earlier. Not real! What was the word I used earlier? Bollocks! None of this stuff is real. All of this pseudo-conceptualization reified into existence by way of a not actual force that if you're a fundy and you want to believe in this stuff, you can think of as a force. It's not. There's not really a force of gravity at all. Now, that's a mixture of quotes from PhDs on this subject, specialists, who say it's not a force. Now, I know it's not a force because it's a mathematical reification of pseudo-geometry. Now, that might be a lot of words for people who are new here, but it means it's not real. Pseudo. So it's not a force. It's not holding gas here. That's just what they say works in their model. And we don't live in their model, we're living in a reality, and it's governed by natural law, not by pseudo-geometry and mathematical reifications and globe models. That's not how gas works. Gas fills availability of volume, that's how gas works. Not, I've got a conceptually bending medium that holds it here, as a container. Well, didn't you just mention, Fundies, that you can't have pressurised gas without a container? So if I draw you a picture of Earth and go, what's that on the surface of it? Is it pressurised gas? Well, where's the container? Oh, there isn't one, making this pressurised gas ludicrous in this image of Earth with pressurised gas on the outside of it without a container.
Nathan,
So should we
the
start
container
asking
is
them?
right there. Just walk outside.
Should
There
we
isn't a
start
container
asking them,
outside. They
can you
claim in their
take a-
model that outside the sky is a vacuum, not a container, quite the antithesis, in fact. An empty space. Quite the antithesis of a container, Arwin.
Now, but that's just on the top of it. You know, that's outer. This is the Earth, so it all just it stays here, and then eventually, when you go up high enough, then you might be sucked in. Yeah, it might be
Oh,
sucked
God.
away, but not here. You know, because it is contained by the natural abilities of space. Basically.
No. The container is the bit around the space that defines how much space. That's the container. The space inside the container is the space. Now, the two things are very different. The space is the volume. Now, the volume isn't the bit you can press on. That's the container. So to say, well, the container is the space. No, the space is the space. And the amount around it in surface area would make up the containment and dictate how much space there is inside it. But the space isn't a container. And if the sky was a space, what do they call it again? Oh yeah, space. That's not a container. That's an area that the gas can fill. Meaning that we don't have that area. It's nonsense to assert that the sky is just a massive space, 10 to the minus 17 torr. No, it isn't. Absurd.
Not all vacuum is the same, Nathan.
I need to know if anybody could provide a measurement of pressure for gas that is not pressurized. I need that.
All gas would have
But
pressure.
it is pressurized.
There is no such thing. It's just nonsense.
But that's what they're saying.
No, they're
trying
not.
to distinguish now.
No, they're not saying that. They're leaving you. That's not what's happening, Chocolate. They're leading you to engage them in an argument about what pressure is, about what defines pressurized gas, not about whether or not the sky vacuum is real. Let's just argue about pressurized gas, like arguing about whether the horizon's bent or straight, not about whether or not it's actually a physical Earth curve edge reified by mathematics. Oh, how so similar these arguments are, and all of them. Mathematical descriptions for things that aren't real and aren't in existence. Well, why are we arguing about the difference in vernacular about pressurized gas versus gas pressure? Who cares? The sky is not a vacuum, and gas expands. I don't care what you call it. You want to call it pressurized gas or pressure? I don't care. My argument is that it's going to expand to fill a volume, an availability of space, and space by them is claimed to be a space, and gas expands to fill it.
I get it. I love the concession of you need a container for pressurized gas. I fucking love it. But
There
I'm
is
saying,
a container. There's a container. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, because we can breathe. And yet,
that's our argument.
I'm just trying to point it out. I'm just trying to irony for people who look at this shit like I do. Like you're saying, you don't need a container for gas pressure, but you need one for pressurized gas. Well, you have a measurement for gas pressure here, right? We have a PSI. So how did you get that if it's not pressurized?
I covered this earlier. I'll just try again. Just listen closely. Everyone shut up. No. They're out from this next step isn't not gas pressure, but atmospheric pressure. So what we have is a circumstance where we have existing gas pressure because it's defined by them as atmospheric pressure. So they've got a fundamentalist belief of sphere-shaped air, not contained air, not taking shape of container, just in an arbitrary sphere shape, held here by gravity, in their model, with their maths. Not in reality. So you can't have pressurized gas without a container. Oh, we have atmospheric pressure here already. Isn't that convenient? No, that's what we're asking, how you would achieve it if the sky was a vacuum. So it's one step removed from our original question. Our question, how can you have gas here if the sky is a vacuum? Now they're focused on one word, gas pressure, because it's got to be pressing on something to be gas pressure. But our argument is actually in rebuttal to their claim in the first instance. So they say, sky a vacuum out of space, pictures from it. And we say, no, not out of space. Gas would fill it as it expands in all directions. I'm not too concerned about the pressure it would be at. I'm more concerned with the fact that it would expand into that space that they claim is there. But if you can take it one step away and argue about what it is to be a gas at pressure, then you're no longer arguing about the sky vacuum, are you? And the lack of a sky vacuum if it was actually an area for gas to fill as it expands in all directions. Let's not be too concerned about what pressure it isn't if the sky was a vacuum, because we wouldn't have any to be worrying ourselves about how much pressure differential you've got when you've got an extra container, as they're arguing, versus atmospheric pressure, a fundy belief in a model. That's where they're going.
Yeah, they don't understand. You first have to have the containment before you can have the gas. So either their space is not a vacuum, or they have a dome.
Nathan, I think, hey everybody, I think a better argument with them is based off of the video you made with George Netchuk from that thing you had with him on Ranties. Is that what is the size of, ask him what is the size of your volume? Because the gas will fill that volume. The volume is the container. So what is the size of your volume? And they won't be able to give you a size. So that means that they could not ever have, like originally there could never have been gas pressure formation.
Exactly.
Because their volume is too huge. That way they can't even get to the whole gradient argument, which is not, it's nonsense, but they still do it.
All I did with George Netanyahu was point out the fundamentals of the argument. That's all I did. So in the case of this picture here, let's pretend for a second that this is the ISS instead of Superman. This is how you've been brainwashed to have this imagery, by the way. Nevertheless, this area here is a sky vacuum, right? Well, that's a volume. That's your V. That's the space it can fill, and it does absolutely have a value according to them. But you've got high pressure gas not filling it. So when you ask them, well, to have the gas and to calculate how much pressure it's going to be at, you say we're at 14.7 psi here. The way you calculate that is with the volume that you've got. Well, what's your volume? Well, their volume's the whole of space. Because irony, oh irony, they've called it space. Probably so someone somewhere can laugh at us about it. Yeah, we'll call it space. The space the gas ain't filling.
Yeah. But, as Rumpus said, the only one actually trying to just bend natural law, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth.
Paraphrased as, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the heliocentric model. Not Earth. Earth is a sphere in his model.
But he said that, though.
Yeah, but when he says Earth, he means Earth a sphere in a heliocentric model. The second law doesn't apply to that. Because all the stars, which are gas...
Law discovered again?
Because all the stars that are gas would fill the volume that they've got to fill. Well, they've got a fundamental second law of thermodynamics violation in every single one of their twinkly lights they think are massive giants of gas. So, yeah, the second law doesn't apply to their
how
model.
would any gas coalesce in a vacuum?
It wouldn't. Their entire model is a second law of thermodynamics violation. The entire model. So when he says it doesn't apply to their model that we don't live on.
Where was that law discovered again? Just wondering.
The natural law, the one applicable to things in nature, on a real surface that we all dwell atop. I hesitate to use the word Earth because when they say it, on the basis that they've got a Earth belief as a sphere, they mean Earth a sphere in a heliocentric model doesn't have the second law of thermodynamics applied to it. It's a natural law, Paul. Yeah, discovered here. Terra, that's where.
But Nathan, would you be able to show me a natural vacuum anyway?
No, you can't. There are no natural vacuums.
So that doesn't already debunk argument.
Doesn't the word Earth actually just refer to the ground?
Nature, but not vacuum.
Depends on who you are and what context you're speaking in. We're surrounded by magicians. Earth can mean a lot of things. So contextually, as a fundamentalist religious zealot, asserting their globe belief, and you say the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth is his Earth as a sphere in a model with the second law of thermodynamics not applied. He's overtly stating it. Well, does it apply to the world that we live in? Yeah, absolutely. It's a natural law. It's just a declaration, ham-handed, that we're not living in that model. Because if we did live in that model, which is impossible, that's a reification, but if it was representative at least of the world we do live in, it would have the second law of thermodynamics absolutely at its heart. And it hasn't. It's not even applicable to their model. The heliocentric model doesn't sit in line with natural law. That's our argument. When they overtly state it like it's a defence, well, that doesn't apply to the Earth. He means his Earth, in his model, that we don't live on.
Can I read out a comment I left on your video concerning this?
Yeah, feel free.
Nathan, thank you. 1 second now. Right. I wrote, started with, it's classic PV equals nRT, as the volume is the potential area that the gas can occupy. And in the heliocentric model, the potential area for volume is the vastness of outer space, which is an unimaginably huge area. This means that the pressure is in direct correlation to the temperature and the volume of the area the gas has to fill. But the volume of outer space is so colossal, the temperature would equalize, as there would not be pressure to give temperature help to form, so we wouldn't be able to exist, as the volume would be too huge to create the pressure, so we will invariably not exist due to an endless volume.
Well, and don't forget, Brian, their volume is constantly expanding. It's not just fixed; it's constantly expanding as well.
I just put in endless volume, but what you said is actually more correct. They are always expanding in their model.
There's two issues. Number one, they have quantified it. It's 3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters. And number two, what is it expanding into?
Yeah, the question's obviously fascinating and destroys their claim because it's a paradoxical. The model leaves you with a paradoxical question to ask. So well pointed out. But the first question, the first answer, sorry, gives us a space. It gives us a qualifiable amount of space. It gives us a V. Well, we can calculate how much the gas pressure would be at, and I can tell you the answer. And I've done the maths. It's 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level, based on their volume. That's the pressure that we would have here on Earth. Real Earth, terra firma, where we stand. We would be at 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, we'd be the same pressure. Simple.
It's ironic that the comment I got on that video, the very first comment I got, was from a glober saying, yeah, but what creates the pressure gradient? Like somebody who was just not reading the original comment and understanding it.
They don't understand to have pressure. They just think pressure gradients debunks it, but they're missing the fundamentals of the pressure gradient. I mean, you cannot have a volume. You cannot have any gas without volume. And where does the volume come from?
Well, we just got it.
They have this.
We just got it from QE. That was the volume. QE gave it us. I can't remember the number. A very, very big number.
3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters.
Wow.
Yeah, but it keeps changing.
But we do have a number to put on it. The fact that it's changing, sliding scale, who cares? Yeah, that's like everything, right? The point is, we can put our finger on a number in their rhetoric. Okay, there you go. There's V. So let's calculate what pressure would be at sea level if we were on their model, or it was comparable to reality. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr. Are we at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level? Anybody? Anybody at all?
No, we're not.
So we have gas pressure. We have gas pressure here. So therefore we must be contained. Or we wouldn't have any. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Simple as that. Quick shout out and promotional super chat from Retro Bill. Thank you very much, first of all, for the super chat. He says, tune in to Quantum Eraser's very excellent YouTube channel. He's an ace bloke who has a jolly good time smashing fundy wankers. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Retro Bill.
Just another caveat. It's supposed to also be expanding faster than the speed of light. Just another caveat.
The speed of what now? Speed of what now?
Did you say?
But I thought nothing could go faster than the speed of light.
Where have we got the speed from now? What's the speed of light now? Speed of what?
I found something interesting if you'll let me read it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Neil.
Okay. Molecules in our atmosphere are constantly moving, spurred on by energizing sunlight. Some move quickly enough to escape the grip of Earth's gravity. The escape velocity for planet Earth is a little over 11 kilometers per second, about 25,000 miles an hour. Still, all in all, Earth's atmosphere is here to stay.
Sorry, can you just read the fourth word again, Neil?
The what?
Fourth word.
Fourth word?
Mm-hmm.
Constantly atmosphere. Oh yeah, that's that sphere shape. Gas doesn't have a shape, right?
They're saying the law of sphere-shaped air says that the sphere shape of the air is here to stay in a sphere shape around a globe Earth. So because sphere-shaped air law says sphere-shaped air is here to stay, then sphere-shaped air is here to stay. So they've got sphere-shaped air law as their justification for sphere-shaped air staying here, Neil.
You gotta mute, Neil.
He's new. He's the newest panel member. I've cut him slack till now.
Talk about escape velocity like it's real. I don't know.
No, it's real within the fundy model that has air-shaped sphere law. Atmo, air. Sphere, fundamentalist religious presupposition. Well, they've got atmo, air. Sphere. Atmosphere. Sphere-shaped air. And they're saying sphere-shaped air around a globe's here to stay. Well, the only point of this is to describe it within their model, within their rhetoric, with a description of how an oxymoron of something without containment taking the shape of a sphere will work in their fundy belief and model. It's meaningless nonsense. But some people will hear this description and won't recognise that they're describing something and how it works in a model. In this case, justification with something that's part of the common vernacular. When you say the air we breathe, most people will refer to that as the atmosphere. Well, it's in the atmosphere. Well, they don't realise that that's a magic trick that's suddenly worked on them when they have this description given to them of what the atmosphere does. It's like, no. That's just a magical word they've used so that you think a justification within a model of how atmosphere works and is being held here with gravity, gas go down, boom, boom, it does not. Well, so what? It's just atmosphere, air law, that's sphere-shaped, oxymoron, air law. No. Gas follows natural law and entropy laws. It'll expand in all directions to fill the availability of the volume it has and take the shape of its container. Does it mandatorily take the shape of a sphere? And go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls in a fish tank? No, it doesn't do any of those things. Does it have a force applied to it in pseudo-Ramonian force space with a gravity well? No, because that's not real either. So none of this shit applies.
I'm starting to think that it's not as common knowledge as you're saying it is, because a lot of people will come into 24/7 and tell us how the atmosphere is containing the gas. It's like they're not aware that the atmosphere that we're talking about is supposed to be the gas. So they somehow try to square it off like, oh, the gas is containing the gas, but then they're like, no, but the atmosphere is containing the gas. It's like, guy, atmosphere is the gas that you're talking about.
Exactly. What
It's
they've
like-
got is they've got a problem with gas not conforming with their model. Quote, Rumpus, the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth, end quote, meaning a sphere Earth in a vacuum with gas not following the entropy laws. Well, when you've got that sort of problem, well, what do you need? You need some magical gas that doesn't follow natural law, don't you? Well, what are you going to call your magical gas? Well, let's call it sphere-shaped air. Let's call it air that's a sphere. Let's call it atmosphere. And there's your magical gas that you can bullshit about all day long. Have all sorts of laws written up about it. Easy. If you're a magician needing to create a solution to a problem where your model doesn't conform with actual reality. Well, gas doesn't behave the way the fundies who think they live on a sphere think it does. They've got their own set of rules within a model for how air behaves. Okay? You fundies with your magical beliefs about air behaves.
Yeah, but they also point out gravity, so they're wrong there too. Because they're saying, even if it were, they're saying that the bending of space-time, a conception, can hold gas molecules in. Because it says in this one that it says the short end.
That's right, Neil. Maybe next Tuesday sometime.
He's gone past Bed Bath and Beyond. He's beyond that.
You're roboting me.
No, I'm not in there anymore. I'm in a noisy car.
You're breaking up there, Neil.
What a wonderful end to my dramatic speech about atmospheric gas. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, if there is this natural law applying to a sphere of air, could I see a real world demonstration of this so that I know to which this natural law actually applies?
Exactly. Show me a sphere-shaped air. What's that you say?
I think the whole... Sorry, Nathan.
I was going to say, what's that you say, Globehead Fundy? Here's pictures from a fake place to justify the sphere-shaped air law. A painting of Earth with gas not expanding into a vacuum in violation of natural law is what they will provide. Or they'll give you a mathematical extrapolation. Well, it gets lower as we go higher, therefore it would dissipate to nothing eventually. No, that's a violation of natural law.
What Neil read out.
Has anybody shared that this law of atmosphere thing?
Yeah.
I've been hearing about this.
Yeah, we've
Everybody
seen it
got
plenty. Yes.
What Neil read out to me sounded like a weaselly nod to entropy. It's like a kind of half of an admittance that entropy is there and can overcome gravity, although they're not saying it all the time. It's like sometimes entropy does beat gravity. That's what it sounded like to me, without using the word entropy or mentioning it.
I just saw it as a fundy use of the word atmosphere to beg the question of sphere-shaped air that's not expanding into a vacuum. That's all I saw it as. Fourth word in, well, begging the question fallacy of sphere-shaped air is going to get me out of this problem. That's all I saw it as. Or maybe not. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. A massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing and smashing the super chat. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Big chocolate.
Well, that actually changed time.
Time is a concept.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Like
Can't
I told
bend.
Nathan, I have a solution to all of you guys. Just move to South Africa. You won't have to worry about it.
Second time you said that. Are you working for the South
Taking
African
time.
Tourist
It
Board
stays
now?
the same.
So you can't bend, dilate, or travel through a concept. Time is not real.
So you're saying if I change my clock, I haven't changed time?
No,
Man.
dog bone.
No.
Dog bone.
That?
You haven't changed the dog bone. Get it right.
You're right. My bad. I forgot to keep up to date with the Brenda debate.
And did that dog bone need food? Oh, God, that almost works, doesn't it? I can't make it as absurd as they do in their shroom-induced non sequitur conversation that you have.
Did it know to be food?
How can you make that kind of nonsense? I can't even do it when I try. How can you make that little sense?
We can have some more fun. Let's see if Acum virus has reckoned with the fact that angular momentum isn't the Coriolis effect. What's up, Acum virus? How are you today? Numpty. Hey, there you are.
I'm doing pretty spiffy, thank you. I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
We're doing good. We'll just wait till after Nathan closes up the show, and then you'll tell the whole group in here how you killed us with the angular momentum, right? Is that what you're going to do again?
I didn't do that in the first place.
Yeah. You should have heard him on Friday, Nathan, after the show. He was going into the mysteries of he was just baiting us and stuff, man, that he knew the two types of angular momentum. Yeah.
Don't lie on me, QE.
They all do it. They all do exactly the same thing. They get absolutely annihilated, and then they go into the comments when it gets re-released. Say this show will get re-released tomorrow, Tuesday. Come virus. If we were having that discussion, let's say we just had the discussion we had on Thursday with him, be in the replay going, "I annihilated them. I showed these idiots."
Be careful, John. That's the teacher's pet.
I'm not doing that.
By the way, did you play that replay yet? Or is that coming today? Because I was looking for it. Can't find it.
It's 1273. Uncut and after show.
1273. Thank you.
I caught that, Neil. That's pretty funny. Did you catch what Neil said?
No, I didn't. Sorry, Neil.
I said,
be
watch out.
careful.
Nathan's little teacher's pet.
Oh, yes, I did catch that. I chose to ignore it.
Must have brought him an apple.
With one hand, he's telling me all about how he got so emotional when Bob was attacking me. Yet here he is.
I call it the way I see it. I still get emotional. You're still my man.
Look, I've already said that by their own low standards, Cumvirus is an okay dude on their side. Does that mean I want to take him out for a beer? No. It means that by their own standards, he's higher up their pile than most. That's all it means. Nothing more.
Thank you, Nathan. I think you're cool.
That's not a compliment.
I'll remember that when you're ripping the next baller to shreds. And I'll wonder, why doesn't he do this to our Cumvirus?
To be fair, I like Virus better than Rumpus and Ed and Chikey and all those clowns. He's at least somewhat decent, or a little more decent to deal with. I don't care if the others are listening.
Oh, yeah. Some of these people are just straight trash to deal with, like the dude we were talking to earlier. What was his name? Jazza? Oh, gosh.
So, Akenbars, what is the Coriolis effect?
An apparent deflection caused by the conservation of angular momentum over a spinning surface.
Which type of angular momentum?
You can't make this shit up, folks. You can't.
No. Nathan took him through it the other day.
Are we
He
talking
agreed to
about
everything.
angular momentum or apparent angular momentum?
Yeah, exactly. Those two statements, Virus, are in complete contrast. So you paused, and then strapped on the description of something totally different. So you were getting there, and then you just intentionally convoluted it. And now I know you've had to do that intentionally. That's what the little pause was.
Nah, I was actually confusing the word. When I wanted to say conservation, my mouth wanted to say angular for some reason. I knew that wasn't the first word to say.
But if it's conserving something, it's not drifting apart. It's conserving it.
It's still an apparent drift. It's an apparent drift.
So not conserving then, drifting apart. That's what drift is. It drifting apart?
No, the object is still going straight. It just appears to drift.
Yeah, as you turn underneath it.
At different speeds.
So how does the conservation of angular momentum or linear momentum have anything to do with that?
Doesn't.
Well, I mean, okay. So
Virus, you understand that the observation of that apparent drift is the Coriolis.
It's optical.
You get that, Virus?
It's not.
We explained this to you the other day.
Can you let him answer? Can you let him answer? Hello, 3 people on him. Hello. Go ahead, Virus.
Fuck.
Let him answer.
I didn't finish.
For the love of fuck, John.
For the love of fuck.
Go ahead, Virus.
I'm usually pretty concise about it.
What
was the question again? Now
I couldn't even remember either, Virus. There was so much rumpusing that I couldn't remember the question to put back to you. But it was something.
Yeah, QE, keep
angular
rumpusing me.
momentum.
Just let chocolate. Oh God, I got to control that.
Wait. I'll restate it. Virus, you understand that the Coriolis effect is the observation of that apparent drift. It's not the apparent drift or whatever the object is doing that you're talking about. Conserving momentum, not conserving momentum, it doesn't matter. The observation of that apparent drift is the Coriolis. You get that?
Okay, that's the reason I said what I said first, and then I said because of the conservation of angular momentum.
Okay.
Well, you're not listening?
Let me try. Okay, so you've conceded to chocolate that you understand that the drift described in Coriolis is the not actual deflection. You understand that the observation in Coriolis is something that's not actually happening, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So, in terms of what Coriolis actually is, there's nothing to be retained because it's something that's an effect of something not actually happening. It's merely you turning underneath it. So, turning underneath it.
No, I don't agree. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You turning underneath something and what appears to happen as a result has nothing to do with the projectile retaining anything. Because the observation is merely, as they're trying to get across to you, the rest of the panel is trying to get across to you, it's observational. It's you watching something as you turn underneath. And what it does as a result is not actual. Now, the fact that, let's say, you're spinning underneath the lamppost and the lamppost is definitely coming towards you, if the lamppost was overlapping the roundabout and at head height, you'd eventually hit it. And that would be a very actual effect, but only occurring because you're spinning towards it. Not because the lamppost retains some velocity, angular or otherwise. It's only an effect because you're spinning underneath that's described in Coriolis. You've conceded, you understand that. It's a not actual effect. So if it's not actual, there's nothing to retain in angular velocity terms.
The object is moving. It's not a stationary object.
Can be.
I told you.
It can be. If I describe it with a
stationary object.
No worries. You can have, if you insist that the item has some sort of straight path to be bent, You appreciate that the path of the item in your description has a perfectly straight path. You appreciate that, yeah?
Yeah.
But you turning underneath it causes the straight path to appear, that's not actually, appear curved. You appreciate that too?
Somewhat, but that only describes the motion to the west, not the motion to the east.
I haven't given any directions to it. Let's just keep it simple. Why are you giving things directions? Doesn't need it. We just need a rotating platform with something that's in your description and insisting to be in motion, travelling straight. You've conceded, yeah, I understand it's travelling straight. So, okay, I can throw a ball over a roundabout. It doesn't matter which direction I throw the ball. We're going to concede that there's two people standing on either side of a roundabout. You understand that, right? And they're throwing a ball back and forth in a straight line. But if you observe it whilst turning underneath on the roundabout, the ball seems to curve. It's not actually curving. It's just because you're turning underneath the ball. You understand that?
Yeah, but direction also plays
okay,
a
I just
big
need a
part in
yes.
this as well,
Just need a
too.
yes. There's an end conclusion. So the ball in this example, what angular momentum or velocity is it retaining when it travels straight and appears to curve from your vantage point turning underneath it? It isn't, right? It's travelling straight. It's not retaining any angular velocity of anything. It's travelling straight and only seeming to curve. But the seeming to curve bit comes from you turning underneath. No velocity to retain.
Well, if that was the case, everything would deviate west, and there would be no east.
Why do you keep going on to this west? Why are you taking it onto something away from my example? It seems unreasonable. I've got an example.
Okay,
two people. I've got to do it step by step, have you, so that you don't wander off into the weeds of something travelling west. Let's try again. Step by step, get a concession for every single bloody word if I have to, Virus. So, roundabout, spinning, playground. You there with me conceptually? Don't talk through me, just concede. Don't babble on after you say yes either. You understand what a roundabout in a playground looks like?
Yep.
You understand that there is no direction, east, west, south, north, relevant to this example at this stage. Just a roundabout in a playground.
Yeah, it's just
Right, so I don't want to hear anything about travelling west after my example's given, and I have to break it down step at a time. Right, roundabout and playground. We're going to have 3 people involved in this example, 2 of which are standing on the ground, not spinning, opposite each other with the roundabout between them. Do you understand?
I understand.
Right, and they're going to throw a ball between them. So it goes over the roundabout and gets caught in a straight line. Every single time it gets thrown and caught, it travels straight. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now you tell me what angular velocity that ball's going to retain.
Who threw it?
The people on the bloody example that I've just given you and you've conceded to. 2 people standing either side of a roundabout. My God, have I got to get you to concede it 6 times in a row before you'll understand the example? 2 people, slow down.
I understand your example.
So 2 people standing over a roundabout, throwing a ball back and forth. That's my example so far. So,
I understand your example.
So now you've got to tell me what angular momentum the ball's conserving.
I just told you from the person that threw it.
So angular, it's got some angular retention of velocity when they throw it in a straight line, has it?
It keeps the speed from the person that threw it.
And that's got anything to do with angular rate of turn or velocity, has it? When they throw it in a straight line? It doesn't have any...
The person that threw it...
It's not moving in a curve.
The person that threw it is turning.
Right, why are you talking through me? It's not got any angle in my example. It's just moving straight. Now, the only thing that's going to be turning in my example, it's yet to turn, I might add. I'm going to have to break it down this much. I haven't spun the roundabout yet, have I? So,
if you haven't spun it yet, then it's going to be linear.
I haven't spun it. I've just got 2 people. Okay. Fucking hell. Let's take 2 people in a park, standing in front of each other with no roundabout, and throwing a ball to each other. Do they have any sort of angular retention or velocity or anything involved in throwing a ball to each other?
Linear velocity.
Tell me, what angular velocity? What the bloody hell are you babbling about? It's just two people throwing two. Have I really got to take it to this extreme? This is really frustrating. I'm describing someone throwing a ball back and forth. That's it.
Linear velocity.
So not angular then?
They're not moving.
So, yeah, that's my point. Finally. So, because they're not moving, we can understand that the projectile is not going to have anything to be concerned about with angular retention of velocity of any description then. Yes?
Yeah, they're not. They're not.
Oh, right. So, ball is thrown back and forth, no angular velocity to concern ourselves with. Now we're going to install... Shut up. Now we're going to install a roundabout underneath them. They haven't moved. They haven't moved. They're just going to continue throwing a ball while a construction worker installs a roundabout underneath them. Bearing in mind, you've already conceded the ball's got no angular momentum to concern ourselves with. Now we've got a roundabout underneath these two individuals throwing a ball straight line back and forth. And someone gets onto the roundabout and watches the ball seem to curve because they turn underneath. Now that is Coriolis effect and has absolutely nothing to do with the trajectory of the ball and only an observation based on the person's momentum when they're spinning, observing it seem to take a curved path.
Okay.
Right, so retention of angular velocity. Nothing to do with Coriolis effect. Ball thrown over roundabout. Man gets on roundabout, watches ball seem to curve as he turns underneath. When you guys start detailing the retention of angular velocity in the projectile, it has absolutely nothing to do with the Coriolis effect, only observed if you turn underneath something not attached. In this example, the ball thrown over the top. No, not angular retention of velocity. You were wrong. You weren't to concede it last time on Thursday, and I want you to concede it now. Taking you through it in baby steps. Coriolis is not retention of velocity, and inserting that the projectile must travel straight to have an appearing to curve path doesn't mean it's retaining any angular velocity. I've given you the example and broken it down for you. Do you understand it?
I understand your example.
Right. So Coriolis effect is not the retention of angular momentum.
I don't agree, but okay.
Do you mean you don't agree?
Dude.
Where's the... No, it's okay. Where in my example is the ball, the thing we're looking at, appearing to curve as we spin under it with Coriolis deviation? That's it curving when it's not. Where's the ball retaining angular momentum? The ball that's travelling in a straight line.
They're spinning, aren't they?
No, they're not. They're not on the fucking roundabout, you dumb shit. Did I not break this example down with them throwing it in a straight line with no roundabout, then introducing the roundabout being built underneath them? No, they're not spinning. How stupid are you? No, they're not.
So how about we use a better example?
Why are you asking me how about we do a different example? No retention of angular velocity in the ball thrown over the roundabout. Not time for a new example and a load of fundy muting.
I'm answering your question.
So the ball's not retaining any angular momentum then. It's not Coriolis effect.
How about the roundabout is a horrible example of Coriolis in the first place?
It's the defining feature of Coriolis, having a rotating reference frame. A horrible example. It's the defining aspect of it. Don't tell me anything. You're starting to piss me off royally. Telling me that a roundabout's not a good example.
Really?
It is the example. That is Coriolis, you dumb shit. You don't know what Coriolis effect is?
If you say so.
No, I know so. You're telling me it's the retention of angular momentum. It isn't. I've given you an example and broken it down with someone throwing a ball back and forth, and then having a roundabout built underneath them as they continually throw the ball back and forth while you start to interrupt me at the point that you've conceded already. You've already conceded. Ball thrown back and forth, no retention of angular momentum. Roundabout installed underneath, guy spinning on it, sees Coriolis effect. Doesn't suddenly have the ball introducing angular momentum to it. It's not done anything different. The only thing different is you spinning underneath it. That's what gives you Coriolis effect. Now, for Earth to have Coriolis effect, like the roundabout, Earth would need to be spinning under the ball. That would mean that I throw a ball into the air and the Earth turns underneath the ball. And that would mean that when I throw the ball, like if I was on the roundabout and throw a ball off it, it would appear to curve away from me. Now, on a spinning Earth, that means I throw a ball in the air and it would whiz away from me at whatever rate the Earth is turning underneath it. That's what Coriolis effect is. You turning underneath. And that's what we'd have to have on Earth. It's claimed we do. It's claimed we see 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath to give us Coriolis effect. The only problem is, nothing's drifting away from us at 15 degrees an hour. They throw a ball in the air on the equator and it fly away from you at 1,000 miles an hour because you're turning underneath it. That simply doesn't happen. There is no Earth-based Coriolis effect. An Earth-based Coriolis effect would be exactly the same as my roundabout Coriolis effect. Earth isn't attached to the ball, therefore it's spinning underneath it. Well, on a massively rotating reference frame of a spinning Earth, you've got 1,000 miles an hour drift on the equator. Something we absolutely do not see. Earth is not turning. There is no Earth-based Coriolis effect.
So if Coriolis is just Earth turn underneath objects, would that mean everything deviates west?
Yes! That's exactly what it would mean.
And it doesn't.
And it does not. You don't go up in a balloon and find that everything west of you is coming to you, do you?
That's not how Coriolis works.
That is what Coriolis is. You on a rotating platform turning underneath stuff not attached. So it's the globe Earth turning underneath stuff not attached. If that's what we have, and it's claimed we do. It's claimed Earth has Coriolis effect. Therefore, on the equator, you throw a ball in the air and it would fly away from you at 1,000 miles an hour. Not because you can throw a ball at 1,000 miles an hour, but because it's claimed we have Coriolis effect. That's Earth turning underneath.
How much Coriolis is directly at the equator?
Wow.
None! There is no Coriolis effect on Earth. We're not turning. I've just explained this. If there was drift at 15 degrees an hour, that's 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, you throw a ball in the air and it flies away from you at 1,000 miles an hour because you're turning underneath it. That's what's supposed to happen on a turning Earth. And it doesn't. There is no 15 degrees an hour. Nothing's drifting away from me. The ball doesn't drift away at 15 degrees an hour, and it should if we're turning underneath to have Coriolis effect. Okay. That's what Coriolis effect is.
So according to the globe, there should be the most Coriolis at the equator.
Yeah, 15 degrees an hour. They change it into an angular speed to make it less overt when you translate it into a mile per hour speed. So 15 degrees an hour is translatable to any part of the sphere. Well, 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, suddenly people would raise their eyebrows when you point out that you'd launch a drone and it would disappear at a rate of 1,000 miles an hour as you turn underneath it while it's hovering in an inertial reference frame. That doesn't happen. But yeah, 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, if it was real, it isn't.
You might want to look up what the globe claims happens at the equator when it comes to Coriolis.
At 15 degrees an hour drift is what they claim, you fucktard. I'll tell you, and you can now deny it. what the globe claims, because I absolutely know what they claim at the equator. They claim there's a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. That's what they claim. You denying that?
What I'm denying is there being Coriolis directly on the equator.
It wouldn't matter where you are. The speed would be the only thing that would change, and at the equator it'd be 1,000 miles an hour drift. That's 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath. That's what you'd have. You'd have stuff drifting away from you at 1,000 miles an hour if there was a Coriolis deflection. The deflection, which is claimed to be there, Coriolis deviation, 15 degrees an hour, is me throwing a ball in the air and it flying away at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Something that absolutely does not happen. You're telling me I don't know the globe claim? Yeah, 15 degrees an hour at the equator, 1,000 miles an hour, mate. Yeah, I do know. Just doesn't happen.
Virus.
That's all.
Isn't your whole globe spinning? Virus.
Hold on, say that again.
Isn't your whole globe spinning?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So why would you think we would only see Coriolis at the equator?
No, he told Nathan in chat that Nathan doesn't know that there's zero Coriolis on the equator.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I can buy it. I can buy this. Can you
Well,
hear me?
let me just correct him once more. Hold on, Brian. Guys, calm down. We'll get Brian next because it sounded like he had an actual question. But let me just correct him first. There's claimed to be 15 degrees an hour everywhere, Virus. And you can translate, depending on your claim to be begging the question, latitude and longitude position, how fast that would be.
Okay.
1,000 miles an hour on the equator, 15 degrees an hour. That's what's claimed. It just doesn't happen.
Okay, if you say so.
No, I know so. Balls don't drift away at 1,000 miles an hour when I throw them in the air. I've been on the equator.
It shouldn't.
They should. That's what Coriolis deviation is. It's you turning underneath. When my roundabout example was explained to you in simple terms, we didn't have any Coriolis deviation until the guy started turning underneath the ball. Until then, it was just two people throwing a ball back and forth. Then the guy turning underneath gave us Coriolis. So to have Coriolis, at the equator or otherwise, Earth would be turning underneath stuff, Virus. Not if I say so. That's what your rhetoric is. It just doesn't happen. We're not turning underneath anything.
Okay.
Earth isn't spinning.
According to the globe, which way is the deflection in the southern hemisphere?
Sorry, it makes no difference. It's 15 degrees an hour everywhere. It's the same everywhere. You're not listening. It's the same everywhere.
So everything goes in one direction no matter where you at on the Earth.
No, it's your fucking claim of a globe Earth that spins, you stupid muppet. I don't think we move at all. Why are you telling me about my claim about what direction it would move in? It's not my claim, you dipshit. You idiots on the globe, let's get it clear for all the Simon Dan wannabe parrots who suddenly think that every defeated claim they make suddenly becomes my argument. No, you moron, I don't think Earth's moving one smegging inch. You, on the other hand, think there's a 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth, and that would give us Coriolis deflection as stuff turns underneath. And that would mean I throw a ball in the air on the equator and it flies away at 1,000 miles an hour. That's your claim that doesn't happen. I can debunk it by throwing a ball in the air on the equator and catching it. As in, I throw it up and it doesn't fly away at 1,000 miles an hour, as per your claim that it should, but doesn't.
I never made that claim.
It's not my claim, it's yours. You think it's funny? You don't have any drift. Laugh it up. Earth's not turning. Laugh it up.
This is very funny.
Yeah, laugh it up. Earth's not turning. You don't have it.
There we go. Laugh it up.
Listen, this numpty thinks that in the northern hemisphere, the Earth is spinning from west to east. In the southern hemisphere, it's spinning from east to west. That's what he thinks. He doesn't know it yet.
That is not what I think. That is not what I think.
With the
why would
direction
you
of
even lie on me like that?
No. Let me just ask him. I'll establish it quickly. Do you think the direction of drift in as the Earth turns underneath is different in the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere? Is the direction of drift different north hemisphere, southern hemisphere, as Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed to happen, but gives us no drift to observe? Do you think it's different north to south hemisphere, the drift that we don't observe at 15 degrees an hour?
Yeah, no, it's too early for all that fast talk.
I didn't understand.
Fast talk. I missed that.
Is the drift that in your mind, right? When I throw the ball in the air, yeah, and it's supposed to fly away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Let's say I move north a little bit, and it's supposed to fly away at 900 miles an hour. Now, no ball's flying away from us ever at any point, anywhere. But let's just pretend for a second that that does happen. That the ball does drift at 15 degrees an hour at whatever speed above or below the equator. Do you think the direction of drift that we don't see is different in the north and south hemisphere?
Yeah.
And how much of okay, no, it's okay. And how much of the drift that we don't see in the northern hemisphere is different from the drift that we don't see in the northern hemisphere? Or southern, whichever I didn't say last.
Direction.
So which direction is it not going to be showing drift in?
I mean, you should know this. You're the one that's the Coriolis expert.
Oh, okay, I do. I had an example, and it was sent to me by one of your compadres. His name's Simon Dan. Now, given the question of how much drift we should see, depending on which hemisphere, his example is now on screen for my audience. An example with no drift virus. So, when pointed out to Dan that we don't have any turn of the Earth underneath at 15 degrees now, nothing's drifting apart, Dan showed me an example with a guy not drifting. So I'm saying if this guy was in the northern hemisphere, would he be drifting or not drifting differently in the north hemisphere? Is that what you're saying? He'd not drift differently north and south hemisphere, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that guy shouldn't be drifting.
Shouldn't be drifting? So you're saying no 15 degrees an hour Coriolis deflection, no drift, no 15 degrees an hour virus. He shouldn't be drifting.
That guy shouldn't be drifting because he shouldn't be experiencing any Coriolis.
Sorry, virus. Shouldn't be drifting at 15 degrees an hour. He shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. According to the globe, that guy should not drift.
No, that's wrong, virus. According to the globe, he should drift at 15 degrees an hour. He should bounce up, and if he's on the equator, the Earth should turn underneath at 1,000 miles an hour, causing him to appear to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour at 15 degrees an hour. That's what is claimed. You think the claim is 15 degrees an hour of drift that we don't see on a turning Earth? Is that what you think?
No. I just think that guy should not be going. That guy is not going through the situation where we will see a Coriolis drift.
What that means, we're not in a situation with Earth turning underneath. Then welcome to flat stationary Earth. So he's not in a situation where Earth turns underneath.
According to the globe,
that situation would require 2 reference frames, right, Virus? So what you're saying is we don't have 2 reference frames?
You can have many reference frames as you want.
Oh, no, you can't. And they're not our reference frames. Quote, Simon Dan. You and your reference frames have been ruined. So you can't have as many reference frames as you require to claim Earth turns underneath to give us drift with examples that don't have drift. That's your problem with your reference frames. You need to claim things are drifting. But you seem to be telling us that the globe says no drift, even though there's claimed to be 15 degrees an hour of it that doesn't get shown anywhere ever.
He don't know me, so he wasn't talking to me.
No, he's talking to me. He was telling me, he's massive representative of your side, Virus. You, on the other hand, are an absolute nobody. But Dan says, and if Simon Dan says you and your reference frames have been ruined, then Simon Dan, globe representative, says you and your reference frames have been ruined. You know, I mean, I've asked him about it and he gave me some answer about diffraction. So he didn't really explain it. But I know I don't have any, and you do, and we're arguing about your reference frames currently. The current reference frames that are giving drift at 15 degrees an hour that you say Globe says we shouldn't see, even though we're supposed to see 15 degrees an hour of it, Virus. We still haven't squared that circle of you saying the Globe says we shouldn't see drift when the Globe's supposed to turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour. That gives you 15 degrees an hour drift that you say we shouldn't see.
Just what you say. The Globe says you shouldn't see it.
Shouldn't see 15 degrees an hour drift. Let's just clarify again, Virus. You're saying the Globe says we shouldn't see 15 degrees an hour drift. Who's asserting that we should see it then, Virus?
I say the Globe says we should not see Coriolis drift with that guy bouncing on the trampoline.
No, Virus. If he was on the equator, he'd drift out 1,000 miles an hour as Earth turned underneath him.
The Globe also claims that there is zero Coriolis on the equator.
So they're saying no 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. That's not what the Globe claims, Virus. So if you're saying the Globe claims there is no 15 degrees an hour drift, who does claim that there's 15 degrees an hour then, Virus? Where would we get this notion from if you're saying the Globe claims no 15 degrees an hour drift? Who claims there is 15 degrees an hour then? Is it us that claims that, or is it you?
It depends. What are you talking about?
Who claims
that? You're talking about at the equator, then the Globe says there's no Coriolis at the equator.
So you're saying the Globe claims no 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth at the equator?
No Coriolis.
When you're on the equator, the stars do not rotate. But it's only when you move south or north of the equator that the stars rotate in the same direction.
So,
that's what you're saying.
I'll take him there. Fine.
That
good idea.
BS.
That's okay. Virus. On the equator, do you believe that the sun fails to rise and set, as it is claimed the Earth rotates underneath at 15 degrees an hour to cause a Coriolis deflection in the sun? Are you saying we don't see an apparent deviation of the sun at 15 degrees an hour on the equator? Do we have permanent daylight or permanent nighttime on the equator? Or do we see 15 degrees an hour claimed to be drift as we turn underneath? You think sunrises and sunsets don't happen on the equator then? Because we're not seeing Coriolis.
Wow, I don't know how y'all came up with that, but nah,
that's Coriolis effect. Like how I came up with it, that's your rhetoric that I understand and you don't. How I came up with it, I understand that you claim, for about the 20th time on this show, that there's a 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth as we turn underneath. And you've just told us that there is no drift on the equator. And according to your claim, Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. And one of the things not attached is the sun. So I'm asking, given that you're saying no drift on the equator, so the sun doesn't rise and set as it's claimed by you, Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Because that's also Coriolis effect, the sun rising and setting in your model. You don't think that happens, though? No Coriolis on the equator, you bonehead.
So the sun seems to deflect?
It's your model, your claim, your 15 degrees an hour deviation that you're saying doesn't happen on the equator. Now, I'm saying if you say there's no drift on the equator, then the sun would never move, because in your model, it's the very drift of the Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. By the way, that would mean that a ball would drift away at 1,000 miles an hour. We'll come back to that. But also the sun, second reference frame, turning, not because it's moving, right? Because Earth's turning underneath claimed to be 15 degrees an hour. So no deviation then, sun not moving, fifth time I've asked. Or is your assertion that there's no Coriolis drift on the equator a stupid thing to say, given that the sun's definitely moving on the equator, as it's claimed in your model we turn underneath? Once you've conceded that the sun definitely is going to rise and set on the equator, we'll move on to the fact the ball isn't flying away as I turn underneath it. But we've got to concede first that your stupid idiot notion that there's no Coriolis on the equator in your model and world that spins 15 degrees an hour underneath stuff not attached. It's just your misunderstandings and misapprehensions about what Coriolis isn't, because you don't understand it. Sun's still rising and setting.
Does the globe ever claim that things deviate to the east?
Yeah, the sun, in this example, maybe a sixth repetition, Virus. The sun is supposed to be deviating at 15 degrees an hour. That includes the equator. You are an idiot who have said there is no Coriolis at the equator. The sun, however, in your globe stupidity, is also an effect described with Coriolis. Given you're saying there isn't any at the equator, how the fuck does the sun rise and set in your stupid world of turning Earth then? Oh, what's that? There is Coriolis on the equator. You're just dumb as shit. Take your time, Dumbo.
Coriolis was an apparent deflection.
Yeah, of the sun, seventh time, maybe. Seventh time. Yeah, the sun, in this example, is in your model appearing to deviate at 15 degrees an hour at the equator. That's Coriolis effect, you stupid shit. How many times? Do you need it 8 times? Do you need it 8 times? Yeah, we've still got an apparent deflection in your model of a globe Earth that spins at 15 degrees an hour, with the sun deviating as a result. According to your claim, the Earth spins underneath at 15 degrees an hour. You've said that's not true at the equator. You're just stupid. I just need you to say, yeah, I was wrong. There is supposed to be Coriolis effect. So I can pummel you with a ball that's not flying away from your hand 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Yeah, laugh it up, share your pain. Share your pain while I point out that, no, you still have Coriolis at the equator, or the sun wouldn't be moving. You're just still yet to concede it because you're a weasel.
I'm in tears. I'm sorry. I appreciate you having me on this show.
Is
this
it because
funny.
this
I
is
really appreciate it.
It's not
so
mutual.
pathetic that you don't even understand your own claims, bro?
Don't say it like we don't know what we're talking about. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I didn't say it like y'all ain't know what you was talking about. I said I'm having fun and I appreciate you putting me on the show. That's all I just said.
Yeah, that's a nice deflection.
Yeah, could you please stop wasting our time? We're trying to tell you the basics and you're just not getting it for an hour. And now you're laughing about it? You shouldn't be laughing. You should be crying.
This is funny.
Or being sad for being this stupid. You give
You're not doing the globe any
immediately you contradict yourself after that. Are you listening to yourself, man?
Okay, so if Globe claims that it's just Earth turned underneath, then why
still in the middle of my example, Virus? Virus. You just laughed rather than addressing my example.
Why are you cutting me off?
Yeah, because you just laughed. I asked a question. I was in the middle of an example that we're still yet to get to a conclusion on. Your hysterical laughter doesn't mean I'm not going to readdress and get us back on the issue. So, the sun, Virus, is an example of Coriolis deflection on a claim to be spinning ball Earth at the equator. Do you concede you were wrong to assert it isn't occurring in your globe Earth world at the equator, so we can move back to my example that pummels this example, or are you just going to laugh hysterically and change the subject? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving you an example.
No,
I'm yet to be finished with it. It's taking far longer because even my ball example over a roundabout will get talked through, laughed through, not conceded. It's got to be broken down into tiny, tedious states.
I'm not going to concede.
So
I don't agree.
So you think there's no Coriolis on the equator? You don't agree? You stick by your stupid assertion there's no Coriolis at the equator?
Yeah. I mean, if you
well, then the sun wouldn't move. Shut up. Shut up! Then the sun wouldn't be moving. That's claimed to be a Coriolis deflection seen in the sun, you stupid idiot. You're wrong.
So the sun moving across the sky is an apparent deflection?
Yes, that's correct. In your model, including the equator, it's claimed the sun has an apparent deflection at 15 degrees now. That's Coriolis drift. At the equator, you are wrong. I'd like you to concede how wrong you are, or I'll start shouting at you.
Oh, please do. Go for
it. Well, I'm giving you an opportunity to concede that the sun example is an example of Coriolis deflection.
Your audience love it. Yeah.
Why? Why be a wanker? Why not just say, yeah, I understand. My stupid assertion that you don't have Coriolis on the equator is defied by the movement of the sun in a globe Earth model. Now, you keeping us here forever just means I never get to actually conclude the point that if the Earth is turning underneath, in this example, the sun, which it's claimed to be, on a globe Earth that spins at 15 degrees an hour, then I'd throw a ball in the air and it would fly away from me at 1,000 miles an hour, as we are claimed to rotate underneath 1,000 miles an hour. Now, you're just keeping us here indefinitely, so we argue about what the sun does on the equator, rather than argue about the fact that Earth isn't turning underneath to give us a deflection in anything other than this claim to be luminary, the sun and the stars. Now, other than that, nothing's drifting. So it's not Earth turning underneath to cause the sun to appear to move at 15 degrees an hour on the equator. The sun just is moving above our heads. But that's not because we're turning underneath, because that would make us a non-inertial spinning reference frame. And stuff would drift away. It's even claimed to be the case by snipers and footballs. Yeah? It's claimed that there's a Coriolis deflection as we turn underneath, virus. The sun, bullets, footballs, drones, helicopters. But that would mean we'd have shortened flight times and I'd throw a ball in the air and it'd drift away 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. And that doesn't happen. We're not turning underneath anything. Your pathetic denial that we don't have it at the equator when it's still claimed to be the cause of the sun's movement through the sky, as it's claimed Earth turns underneath as a second non-inertial spinning reference frame, it's just stupid. It's just your delay tactics to get away from the actual point that we can debunk the notion we have 15 degrees an hour drift, as is absolutely claimed to be occurring, including the equator. It just doesn't happen. Nothing's drifting away from you 1,000 miles an hour when it leaves a claimed to be spinning reference frame. And when we point that out, you'll tell us it's retaining the velocity, even though that's sod all to do with us turning underneath it.
Yeah, I don't agree with basically just what you're saying. That's all. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't mean I have to agree.
No, you don't understand, and you're a troll. What are you doing here, man?
Don't say I don't understand.
You're worse than
I understand what it is he's saying. It's not that hard.
No, you don't know, because every
agree.
time you basically reply, you contradict yourself. You're an idiot. You don't get it.
When I say they contradicted myself.
Well, just carte blanche hand-waved it all and said, I just don't agree. You didn't qualify what you don't agree with. You didn't give any rebuttal. You said, I just don't agree.
Well,
yeah, because your whole statement, I don't agree that just because there's no Coriolis on the equator that the...
Fuck you, man. I've just spent 10 minutes going through how there is Coriolis on the equator in your claim. It's supposed to be the cause of the sun's movement. You've not acknowledged a single fucking word of it. Yeah? You've muttered and stammered your way through it the entire fucking time. And now you're just going to declare it again just because there isn't any at the equator. Well, then the sun wouldn't move in your model. Yeah? And you're just refusing to let that go because it means I can't reassert the conclusory point that it would mean stuff's drifting away from you when it leaves the spinning Earth. And that doesn't happen. So you're just going to reassert it and ignore every word? You complete bastard.
I'm not even ignoring every word.
You ignored every fucking word about the fact that the equator is claimed to have 15 degrees an hour deviation as the sun moves from your position on a turning Earth moving underneath it on a globe Earth that spins. Now that would imply that we're turning underneath the sun on the equator at 15 degrees an hour as a second reference frame, and stuff would drift away from you when it left that reference frame. That's what the claim is. But you just reasserted that just because there isn't any Coriolis on the equator, there would be if we were turning. There isn't because we're not turning. Now you're going to keep it away from that conclusory part of the statement by describing there being no Coriolis effect on the equator. No, there isn't. We're not turning underneath anything. The equator part's irrelevant. I'll take it as a concession. No, there isn't any Coriolis on the equator. You're right, Virus. There isn't any Coriolis anywhere else either.
Thank you. Thank you for conceding.
Yeah, there's no Coriolis effect at the equator because Earth's not turning underneath. That's what I'm conceding to. No Coriolis effect in the face of a claim that there is. Coriolis effect on a turning Earth. No, there isn't any, and you agree there isn't any. The fact that you'll only agree on the equator is just because you're an idiot, and you won't concede to the fact that in your model it's claimed to be the cause of the sun's movement. You just ignored me because you're a wanker. And you've got nothing to do but completely ignore it and then parrot it again at the end of my demolition of that assertion in your model. Because that's what you want. You want me arguing about your position in your model rather than annihilating it by pointing out we don't have any drift. We're not turning under anything. This bouncing guy, if we had Coriolis effect, would bounce out of the tractor, and if Earth was turning underneath, he'd fly away because Earth was turning underneath. Forget about the tractor. It'd be 1,000 miles an hour of the Earth turning underneath him that would be the problem, not the tractor. The fact that this is an example from your own side with absolutely no drift, when your claim is that things drift apart 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, will be met with you arguing all day about how we don't have Coriolis effect on the equator, but we do everywhere else. Like that's a reasonable position to take. No, it's not, because you're not arguing for your position that we should have drift anymore, are you? You're arguing that we shouldn't have drift on the equator. Oh, I still think we've got drift. I still think things drift apart at a different rate away from the equator, but I'll argue all day with you telling me how I should have it on the equator. Just pricks. Trying desperately to get me to argue for your position, rather than actually conceding, yeah, I'm supposed to have Coriolis on a turning Earth at the equator. Just doesn't happen. Nothing's drifting away from anything.
All right. This is starting to sound a lot like he is considering the reference frames ruined, but he still believes in them.
No.
What?
Virus, why did the sun rise and sunset in your model?
The rotation of Earth.
Oh, that would be the rotation of Earth underneath the sun, right?
It's just a rotation of Earth, not underneath the sun.
As a second reference frame turning underneath.
Earth rotation?
Yeah. That's a second reference frame Coriolis deviation then. Do you understand that that's Coriolis deflection then? Not the sun's movement, but you turning underneath it on a turning Earth according to your claim. That would give us deflection. That's stuff drifting apart from one another though, Virus.
It's not an apparent deflection.
Yeah, it is. The sun's not actually whirling around the Earth in your model, is it? It's the Earth turning, causing it seem to move. That's Coriolis deflection. You just don't know what Coriolis effect is, Virus. It's as simple as that. We have to educate you every time you come here with this asserting to us that it's conservation of angular momentum. Absolutely batshit and crazy nonsense that's simply not true. We have to educate you in what Coriolis effect is, and then if you come here and say, well, we do have Coriolis, Earth is spinning, but you wouldn't see any Coriolis on a spinning Earth that is spinning at the equator. So we're into the begging the question part of you assuming Earth spinning, but arguing about whether or not on a spinning Earth we've got it at the equator. No, I'm not going to fucking do it all day. Yeah, if you don't understand your own stupid claim about what Earth should or shouldn't do, you shouldn't be arguing here. You don't understand how Coriolis effect works. You don't understand how Coriolis would be translatable to a globe Earth. You don't understand how, when translated to a globe Earth that's spinning, we don't see that effect. And you're going to refuse to let me make that point by talking all about the equator, some arbitrary line drawn on a sphere Earth in your world.
We can talk about something else. We ain't got to talk about the equator.
Wait, virus. So I just asked you, what is the cause of sunsets and sunrises in your model? You said it's the rotation of the Earth, right? So wherever I am, if I see the sun rising or setting, that's due to me on the ball spinning away from it, right?
Yeah, Earth rotation. All right.
Right. So it's not the actual sun moving across the sky. It's me on the ball moving away or towards it that makes it appear like it's moving across the sky.
Okay, it might appear like it's moving, but it's not appearing to deviate. It's not drifting away from its path.
What the fuck, man?
There's no apparent deviation.
It appears it might be moving, but it's not appearing. What the fuck are you blabbering about?
What he's doing is he's getting us. No, it's what they do all the time. I'm not going to fall into this trap. Let me just explain what's happening. He's denying a particular aspect of his own model so that we have to argue about how he's wrong about his model rather than debunking it. That's all they've ever done with Coriolis effect ever. I've drawn a line in the sand and eventually, without causing offence, I hope everyone else catches up. No, I'm not going to sit here all day correcting him on how a globe Earth that spins works. Because then what are we doing? We're detailing all day long about how a globe Earth that spins should work. Fuck that. I'm tired of it. I don't give a shit if he knows how a globe Earth that spins works. If we're spinning at the equator, I'd throw a ball and it would fly away at 1,000 miles an hour as we turn underneath it. That doesn't happen. Now, whether or not he understands how a globe Earth that spins works is irrelevant. He's thick. I do understand how it works, and we don't see the effect because we're not spinning. And I'm going to get to that point every single time the Coriolis effect comes up. I'm not going to have the conclusory statement being, so we're going to spend 10 minutes getting it to the point where Virus understands that a globe Earth that's spinning has the equator subject to Coriolis effect. Well, what an achievement. We've convinced Virus that at the equator he should have Coriolis effect on a globe Earth that spins. What a win for flat Earth. No, I'm not going to do that from now on. Sod that. No, what I'd much prefer to do is say, it's claimed we've got 15 degrees in our turn of the Earth. That gives us Coriolis effect as we spin underneath stuff not attached. Well, if we spin underneath stuff not attached, it would drift away at vast speeds the further out you got towards the equator in their model. I'd throw a ball, it'd fly away from me 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Am I going to argue all day about what a ball Earth claims about what should happen on the equator according to some dipshit that doesn't understand Coriolis? Or am I going to point out how it does not happen? We don't see 15 degrees now drift. Nothing's drifting away from me at any part of any location, ever. I never throw a ball in the air and find it flies away from me and drifts at 15 degrees an hour. That simply doesn't happen. There is no Earth-based Coriolis. There is no drift. Nothing ever drifts away from me. Don't give a crap whether or not you understand your model or not, Virus. You're an idiot.
Can I ask you something, Nathan?
No, you can suck my balls.
Can I ask Virus that question I was going to ask him?
Yeah, you can ask Brian.
Somebody scared?
Virus.
Asshole.
Virus.
I don't think you're a nice guy anymore.
Brian, go ahead.
I love all y'all. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah. Brian, go ahead.
Know.
You're a dick, Akuma Virus.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan. Arkham Virus. If me and you were standing outside of the place where you live, and we're on a rotating Earth, and there's a plane flying in a straight line above us, when we look up, should we see that plane appearing to deviate?
No. It has other forces that are greater than that.
Well, we're not rotating then. So, that's the end of that.
Yeah, so no 15 degrees an hour deviation then. Earth has no Coriolis effect then, Virus. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we agree there is no Coriolis deflection. You don't look at aeroplanes and see them drift as you turn underneath. That's absolutely right. We're all in agreement.
Can you ask him the elephant room and the question that we could have solved this a long time ago?
What's that?
When Akambars, when they say there's 15 degrees of drift, what's drifting?
Usually, I believe it's what a gyroscope or a pendulum or 15 hours drift. They're talking about the Earth turning at 15 degrees an hour. At least I think that's what you're asking.
And that makes the stars apparently move. Sun, moon, stars. Yes.
Apparently, Earth's rotation does cause all that to appear to move to us. Yes.
So what you said earlier is that on the equator that the sun, moon, and stars don't move.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You said on the equator there is no drift.
Moreover, you also said that if you go north, they spin in a different direction than they would if you went south. You also said that unknowingly, unwittingly, you said that.
Yep.
Could you at least get what I'm saying right?
You listen to the words that you use?
Yeah, you said there's no...
I didn't say the word spin with that whatsoever. And what he said before, I didn't say nothing remotely close to that.
Yeah, you did.
So could you at least get what I'm saying right?
Yeah, you're probably just lying to yourself right here, dude. I'm totally sick of him, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fair enough, Owen. It's frustrating as all hell, but that's cognitive dissonance. Some of us were there at one stage, so with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.